All right, welcome to the Utah Lake Commission Technical Committee meeting. We expect Eric and Sam to show up shortly. I'm sure they have copies of the agenda. The agenda was sent out to us previously, so please refer to your copy that you may have printed yourself or the electronic copy. Before we get started, we'd like to, oh, Sam's here now. I just started recording, so if you want to,
that would be
just
great.
grab your recorder and get it going.
More than willing to.
Let's go ahead and go around the room and introduce ourselves. It appears that we have a lot of visitors here today, so if you wouldn't mind, if you're a commission member representing a municipality or state agency, just let us know who you are and who you represent as a member of the technical committee. And then we'd like to hear the names of the members of the general public that have come to listen as well. So we'll start over here.
Carrie Malkovich, the City of Woodland Hills.
Corey Pierce, Spanish Fork City.
Sullivan Love, Vineyard City.
Morgan Faulkner, Portion Farm State Lands.
Scott Bird, Utah County.
Joshua Holtz, Utah State Parks.
Amy Pace, Mountain Heights Academy.
I'm Reed Price with Orem City and the chair of the commission.
Gina Grand Prix with Saratoga Springs City.
Todd Munger with Lehigh City.
Brad Smith with Geosyntec Consultants.
Brett Robinson, also with Geosyntec.
I'm Jesse Stewart. I'm with the Utah Lake Water Users Network for Salt Lake City.
Okay, we'll go around here and then we'll let the students introduce themselves.
John Larson, I'm a crowd.
Mike Mills, I'm with the Utah Sucker Recovery Program.
Brenda Watson, I have two Mountain Heights students up there.
Keith Lawrence, I represent the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, Native Products, Central Region.
Mark Farmer, Habitat Manager, Division of Wildlife. Brian Nicholson, Martin Nicholson, Environmental Consultants.
Neil Richardson, City of Warren Water Resources.
Mike Brown, Utah Water Conservancy District.
I'm Laura Brennan with Forestry Farm State Lands. Jamie Barnes with Forestry Farm State Lands.
Eric Wells with Utah Lake District.
Clayton Wolf, Vineyard Lakeland President.
Randy Reeves, General Public Recovery. Andrew Baker, Sin City.
Mark Ogren, Provo City, Water Rights.
Shelley Trumbo, Provo City, and finally here is Rebecca.
Sam Rager, Utah Lake Commission.
I'm Laura Evans, advisor of the Conservation Catalyst team and 8th grade science teacher at Mountain Heights Academy.
I'm Jessie Watson, and I'm in 12th grade.
I'm Kate Watson, and I'm a sophomore at Mountain Heights Academy.
I'm Gavin Rose.
Hi, I'm Kate Larson. I'm a junior at Mountain Heights Academy. And is this when we start?
No, not yet. Not yet. We'll thank you. Welcome everyone to this, our first meeting of 2020. Second item on our agenda is to review and approve the technical committee minutes from our last meeting, which was held on September 18th of last year. Those were sent to us by Sam late last week. Hopefully you've had a chance to review them. Are there any comments on them? Any corrections, questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Sullivan has moved to approve the minutes from September 18th, 2019. Carrie has a second. Any further discussion? All in favor to approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no or nay or whatever. Okay, the minutes are approved. Where's Eric at?
Right here.
Eric, do you want to introduce the students here and explain the next couple of presentations that we have here?
Yeah. So I was really excited to hear from Laura Gibbons that the school had been, or the program had been, looking at cool ideas to think about conservation and algae issues, and we have a young bunch that prepared a cool presentation and have also created a lesson plan that we hope to include in our 4th grade field trip program. And so we're really excited to learn more about it. So I've kind of glanced through they created a short book that will be a fun book that kids can read that teaches them. And I won't give any spoilers away. But we're excited to have you here and glad that you can make the time in your schedules to come talk to us about what you've learned.
Woo! Okay.
start now?
Now's your time.
So, thank you all for letting us come and kind of share our project with you. So we are the Conservation Catalysts. We are a team of high school students with Mountain Heights Academy. Now, all of us love science, and we are competing in a competition, and luckily we made it to the national stage, so it's very exciting. And our main kind of like hope for our project is to conserve clean water one change at a time. So we have a website. I don't know if we will be putting that up or not.
If you'll just turn on the...
In the moment, it's loading. So, it's very exciting. Our website kind of shows just an introduction to the problem. As we know that, Utah's water quality is not the best, and a lot of people are not quite aware of the issues that Utah faces with our water. And so, we have kind of taken on the position of raising awareness and educating the public about a much needed issue where they need to know the truth and what they can do to help. So, our homepage, which is kind of moving around right now, kind of gives an introduction to the issue and lets our visitors to the website know what we're all about and our hope for the project and kind of what we are going to do as a team. So, our next page is the problem, and this is something that kind of goes into detail about the problem that we are addressing, and that is harmful algal blooms, or HABs. Now, we know that especially Utah Lake, faces a lot of different issues in that regard, and so we are kind of trying to tell people what they can do to help. And then we have our journey, and this is all about how we've gotten to where we are today. Now, we have been working on this project together for almost 2 years now in the lab. We love lab coats, they're super fancy. So we loved doing anything that we can to help and really raise awareness. And so we're doing a lot of different education and outreach. As you guys can see, if we look on the poster kind of at the bottom, we have different water tips. And we're actually posting those on social media platforms through our school, Mountain Heights Academy, where we are simply telling viewers what they can do to make a difference in Utah's water. So we have different brochures and things like these, and then we have just all kinds of different things to raise awareness and really try our best to spread word. And then, our work. So, there are a couple different main outreach opportunities that we are taking advantage of as of right now. One of which is our elementary curriculum, which I will now pass the torch to Katie and Chrissy. So there you go.
So as we dove deeper into our project, we realized that probably the best way to help our water quality is through education and outreach. And we figured we'd probably start this out by looking at the source, and then so we decided to go with kids and to target it towards kids, because if the kids learn and are excited and enthusiastic about making a change for our water or anything else, it can create a ripple effect to everyone around us. So we started by developing an elementary curriculum targeted towards 3rd and 4th graders. We worked closely with the teacher who had taught those grade levels, so we would know exactly how complicated to make it and what sort of things we wanted to include into this project. And as we did it, we made a lot of different fun things and activities for the kids to do, as well as a simple lesson teaching them about HABs, how they can help, and what they can do to prevent it. So we did tons of fun stuff. We have a lesson. We have a little algae lab where they can experience for themselves what it is like where they can experience what it is like if you have a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus and fertilizers in your water, and you can see what happens. We have a word search, a crossword puzzle. We even have a little game, which she'll talk about in just a bit. We also wrote a book because I have been to many reading days with Mountain Heights, and I see that kids love books. They love fun books with pictures and everything, and it just helps really, it really helps show our point, and it helps with that. And we had a great illustrator. It was tons of fun, and yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Chrissy about our games and some other stuff.
We made 2 games. One is a board game right here, and it shows, basically it's little lily pads, and they hop on the little lily pads, and then you have these scenario cards that tells whether something good happened to you or bad in like the water, or whether they're helping or taking away from the problem. So one of these reads, you picked up and disposed of pet waste, a common source of excess nutrients and bacteria. Move forward 1 space. so they can then move forward, and whoever gets to the finish wins. The other game that we created is kind of an alternate version of this game, and you can use it you can set up tiles and have them hop from one space to another to add more of an activity element to it and more physical stuff. And it really helps them to grasp the concept and to really take what they have learned and integrate it, because all the kids love to do fun little activities and games that help cement the concept. This is just, I made like a little thing that you could do. It's a file folder game, and it's just an example of what you could do if you print off the game.
Another thing that I would like to add is our curriculum, the game, and all these things that we made are freely accessible through Creative Commons and an open educational resource. That they can be found on our website, because we want them all to, everything is printable, so that way the game you can make yourself. The book, there's an online version and a printable version, so that way it's just easy for teachers all around. And now I'm turning over to Gavin about our app and other reach.
Alright, so I'm currently developing an app for the team with their help. And it's in the works still. We still have a long way to go before it's, publicly accessible, such as user-friendly interaction. When it is done, it will be available on the website either through a download link or maybe just a download off the website. The end goal of it, I'd say, is to once again outreach and just help people learn about the topic.
Yeah, so not only are we doing outreach through the app and our website, though, we are also working closely with a couple Utah schools and colleges and universities. So we are actually on March 5th, we will be going to Brigham Young University and having a table there for a couple of hours, just kind of letting the students know about our project and what we are doing as conservation catalysts to kind of help make a difference in this area. So at our table at these schools, we will actually have our website, our poster over there, we'll have our game available, and then we'll also have our water wheel of fortune. This is a very exciting thing. It'll be a huge wheel that people can spin, and it'll have different scenarios, as they kind of said, where it allows the students to see if they have good water scenarios or bad ones. So this is a great way to kind of educate the students about how they can help and ways that they may not help. So it's a very great resource, and we'll be taking that into BYU in March. And then we might also be taking our table into Westminster College as well. And then we're also working closely with Utah State University. So we are doing all kinds of different outreach things, as well as in the future, next couple of weeks, we're going to be reaching out to different global experts in this water field and talking to them about different things that maybe we can do to help and kind of address this issue to our best possible area. So that is kind of our project as Conservation Catalysts, and we want to say thank you all so much for allowing us to come and share our project with all of you today. If you have any questions, let us know, and thank you so much.
As a Catalyst team, we did want to donate about 10 of our books to you, so you can, I don't know if you can give them away to teachers, or we've run off some copies of the game as well. We figure teachers, they'll take anything you give them. So, so hopefully that will help you in being able to push or share the curriculum with others. And thank you again. We recognize we're amongst experts in the field. And these students, they said they began 2 years ago. We began originally trying to find a phage to address the cyanobacteria. We worked with North Davis Sewer. We went out there and looked at things. And I can tell you, we know like 101 ways to not grow cyanobacteria in a lab. It is a lot more difficult in a lab scenario than it is like just anywhere else. But they continue to be equally as excited about getting out and sharing with whoever will listen about their message of just making small changes to try to help our environment as a whole. So hopefully, if you have any questions, please shoot them our way. We know you're on a time frame here with your meeting, but Eric has our information. I'm going to leave some of our, I'll get you some business cards. We did have some business cards made. They're in my car though. So I will put those out for, it has our website and our email. So thanks again for allowing us the time to come and share with you.
Thank you.
We do have a little bit of time. Does anybody have any comments or questions that you'd like to ask these students?
When is your national competition? So it's due on March 16th. So we're working our best. We're going to create another presentation, which is like what we see here. And so we're going to create a whole new one about our second phase. Wow. Wow. Our second phase of the project and what we've kind of been doing to ramp it up to the next level. So that'll be done hopefully soon. Yes.
So it's just good for us to have as much outreach as we can. So we appreciate you because there's a lot of there's a huge, vast amount of people from a lot of different areas. So Eric, could we get the roster of who was here and
for sure
what they're not that we need, but who you represent?
We got you a nice picture too that you can put on your.
That's right.
So,
Yes.
Well, we appreciate your efforts to promote conservation and clean water. Utah Lake. Everyone in this room has a reason to be involved and make sure that steps are made to help protect the lake in good ways. And public education is probably the simplest and arguably one of the more effective ways of protecting it. So we appreciate your efforts to promote conservation, and that should have effects on this valuable resource that we have in the state. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. We'll clean up.
We'll give you a minute to clean up, and then Laura is our next presenter. Yep.
Just fine with that special adapter here.
You have that.
I don't know. Oh, crikey.
I've got one of those.
Okay.
Let me go check.
Oh wait, you know what? I can just do this. It's HP's like own special adapter thing. They're also stingy with their adapters. Any idea? Try another.
Let me go see if I got another adapter.
There is a second sheet on the back for anybody who's not like officially on the committee. We do want to record anybody who's a visitor too. So that'll go back around in a second if you need it.
Any chance there's a clicker that goes along?
You'd have to ask Eric or Sam.
We should have a clicker.
Yes, it is.
It's in the front pocket, I think.
So we've got a clicker right here.
Do you have a USB port open on your laptop?
Yes.
And then, have an HDMI port?
No. I have an adapter for a port. HP doesn't have HDMI. So if we had an HDMI port,
I have
plug
one.
into
Do you
it.
need one?
Yes, that might be what he's looking for, but if you have one here, we can try.
Let's see if we can adapt to that.
She's got a longer HDMI cable. Want to try that one?
Do you have HDMI?
No, that's why I need this special guy.
Yeah, because I can do.
This to this. Okay. What now?
Do you have like a control F
Can I
something to
yeah.
switch screen? F3 or F7? I'm not sure if the screen.
How about up here? Anything?
I can turn it off and back on.
Do we have a different laptop we want to try? Or just connect straight to HDMI?
I think the source is right because it's coming from through HDMI.
Yeah, it's
right?
catching HDMI
On the back of the projector.
Yeah, and it's
To a
Yes.
USB port though.
So it should be. Can we turn this? Is it quick to turn on and off? Sometimes that.
Turn this on and off.
Okay.
Well, maybe while Laura's getting ready, we can jump to agenda item number 4, which is committee leadership election. Every 2 years, the commission or the technical committee, the bylaws state that new leadership should be elected. I've been in this position for the past 2 years, and Scott Daly has been the vice chair for the past couple of years. There is no stipulation that he necessarily becomes the chair, but that's been the that's been what's happened over the past, well, since the commission existed. So I know Scott is willing to serve as the chair if the committee wants him to. So
I move that we make Scott the chair.
okay, Carrie jumps right on it and suggests that Scott be made the chair.
Right.
He's going to accept, right, Eric?
Yes.
You have confirmed that with him. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we got a second.
Second, third almost. How about
Okay.
that?
Everybody's not me. It's anybody but me. Okay, so we have a motion and a second from Mike Mills to elect Scott Daly as the chair of the commission for the next 2 years. Is there any discussion on the issue? Does anybody have any concerns with that or envisioned yourself in it? Okay, seeing no discussion, those in favor of electing Scott Daly to serve as the chair for the next 2 years, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, so Eric, if you'll let Scott know that he was unanimously elected as the chair for the next 2 years. Next is to elect a vice chair who serves as Scott's assistant and steps in and conducts these meetings in his absence, and occasionally might be asked to present to the governing board. In the past, we have typically alternated with always had a state and a municipal representative serving as either the chair or the vice chair. And so it would, if that was to continue, we would be looking for someone to nominate another municipal member. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case, but it is, I think it's encouraged and by the governing board. So does anybody have a desire to serve as the vice chair, recognizing that you would likely become the chair in 2 years?
Who's allowed to nominate?
Committee members only.
I would consider doing it.
Okay.
If nobody else wants to do it, but I like the idea that a municipal person serves in that, so.
Now, Carrie, you also serve on the governing board, right? Yeah, I don't think there's a conflict there, so that might give us a good. Well, at least it's not prohibited. So, Carrie's expressed an interest. Anybody else? In the past, as soon as someone says yes, they're typically nominated. So,
I would nominate Carrie.
All right, Mike Mills is nominating Carrie Malkovich as
second.
Second from Sullivan Love. Any discussion? Any further discussion? All right. Well.
Further discussion. Thanks to Carrie, we had this great presentation this morning. She connected us with the teacher, so she's already on the ball.
Good. All in favor of electing Carrie as our vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Great, congratulations, Carrie. And the meeting's now yours.
You need to finish your term.
If you want me to finish, I would be more than happy to finish.
Of course.
All right, Laura, are we still troubleshooting?
I think it's the computer.
Yeah, if anyone has another computer that they know that works with this projector, yes, I do.
HPs are tough projectors. I've got a
Got all sorts of cables.
Eric,
Yeah.
Do we need to tell Brian that he needs to upgrade
if
the
you
computer
need, well,
for
we
you?
can get our projector out.
Okay.
What's the presentation called?
It's called
Utah Lake CMPFA?
Yeah. Yep. Which adapter would you like for your computer?
Just HDMI works fine.
Okay. Because got them all here. Here you go.
Let's see if it'll go.
Come on. It's a really graphically rich presentation, so I really need you guys to see these slides. Don't want to listen to me just drone on. It will be.
Do you want me to break out ours?
Change it to HDMI on computer on first.
Oh. Huh. Do you want me to hook up? Because yours works with ours, right?
Source's computer because the HDMI is coming out.
Seems like we're back in 1995.
That's what happens when I show up late to the meeting. Troubleshooting has to happen during it.
Turns on.
Do we have more than one power outlet there? Do we need to hook up a new cable?
No, there's a power.
Yeah, it's under.
It is kind
Oh,
of.
signal status.
How do I turn
off.
this on?
Keep going with that.
Do you want to? Okay. Power it up. There's the cable for it.
Okay.
Where's the power at?
Giving up with this.
I'm going to just lift that one off. And then this is the power plug. Where is the
It's right down there. Okay, perfect. It's too short. Don't do that. I got an extension cord. If we need
Would you
it.
mind plugging it in?
Is this this?
Yes. Turn that off.
Because the cool blue backlighting for the presentation. Now we really are in 1995 if you look at these two. We'll get there though.
Oh, I bought that
It's
5
probably
years
like
ago.
I was gonna say, you
6
probably
years ago.
purchased it.
I bought it because I needed
Well, it hurts here
HDMI.
now.
You have to buy it.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see if it will come through. Anybody got any jokes or rumors about the lake or something? I mean, those are always good conversation points.
They're draining the lake right now.
Hardly.
This is a unique problem, right? We've been fighting to get water in the lake for all these years, and all of a sudden we're so full that we need to do a little emergency drainage to be sure that there's room. Deer Creek's at 95% full without runoff, and we're at 98 point something. We're only, what, 3 or 4 inches below full.
0.44 feet below.
Yeah.
When did they do the first release?
Just a couple
Started
days ago.
didn't it?
We started on Friday, just letting out a little bit. And really, the goal is to just kind of maintain where it is. But it's just because Jordanelle is 86%, Deer Creek's 95%, Utah Lake's 96%, 98%.
Do you have them all the way open?
No.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, we're letting it out. Kind of all the water's going to go down at Jordan until it's surplus canal, and it's going down the surplus canal out to
really surprised that it works with his laptop.
So we're not anywhere near what would be a flood stage. We're just trying to make sure that there's adequate rain when the snow starts to melt.
There you go.
All right, a big collective cheer from everyone.
Dramatic effect. You're good to go.
Oh my.
Good job, Carrie. Way to get things moving.
So this is
That's the new
presentation.
vice
It's
chair.
just presentation, but this just lets you see it in advance of what's coming next.
All right. Well, I'll move on since we're behind. Thank you guys for having me. Eric called Jamie last week, the Sovereign Lands Program Manager, and asked if I would talk about a potential management plan revision for Utah Lake. My name is Laura Brennan. I'm the Sovereign Lands Planner with the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. And since 2007, I've been working on management plans updates for the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands, starting off with the Great Salt Lake Comprehensive Management Plan update. Wasn't involved in this original Utah Lake Management Plan. By show of hands, was there anyone in this room that was involved with the development of the last management plan? Okay, great. So, for those of you who don't know, the Utah Lake Plan was pretty unique in that it was a cooperative effort between the Utah Lake Commission and the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands. For all of the other state sovereign lands, we now have our own management plan for all of our water bodies, which we didn't even have in 2009. So starting the top of the state, we have the Utah portion of Bear Lake now, Bear River we have a management plan for, Great Salt Lake, Utah Lake, and now portions of the Green Colorado River. So during that process, over the years, we've kind of revamped how we do our management plans, and they're a little more technical, a little more resource rich, and so I wanted to just talk to you guys a little bit about our management plan update process, and see how it may fit with a Utah Lake management plan update. So just be thinking what you guys know about the management plan for Utah Lake, how a revision could look. So, as most of you know, the Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands is responsible for managing below the ordinary, all sovereign lands below the ordinary high water mark at statehood. So lands that were navigable at statehood below their ordinary high water marks. But since we don't know where those ordinary high water marks are at the time of statehood, each sovereign land has a different elevation, top of bank delineation that we use. If you're interested, we can go over each one of those. We are, like I said, the executive authority of sovereign lands throughout the state, and per the state statute, we are required to have management plans that guide us and provide consistent management throughout time. And like I said, we haven't had that on all of our sovereign lands until now. So we manage for the public trust. We are not, we're unlike Sitla in that our mission is to manage for the public trust. We need to consider navigation, fish and wildlife habitat, aquatic beauty, recreation, water quality. All of these things go into, all of these things we need to keep in mind when making decisions on our resources. Unlike Sitla, where their mandate is to maximize revenue for school children, ours is to consider how all of these things are impacted with proposed decisions on sovereign lands. We have a multiple use framework. So in addition to managing for the public trust, public lands, we need to consider what the highest and best uses of the land are, what the present future uses are, sustainability of lands for proposed uses, impact of the proposed uses on sovereign lands, the compatibility, how well it fits with all the existing projects, work, infrastructure that's going on in the lake, and what are the special attributes and the availability of each sovereign land resource. So why would we update the 2009 CMP? Well, in our statute it says that we should update our management plans every 10 years once we have them. And now we have them, and it's definitely been 10 years, so it's due time. And I think so, kind of going down the list of things that we want to do for Utah Lake, we'd want to incorporate new information and scientific data. I was just talking to someone yesterday who said, you know, we have, in the last 10 years, we've got a ton more information on the Great Salt Lake, but it doesn't seem like information has been, or research has been happening to the same degree and the same intensity that it has on Great Salt Lake for Utah Lake. So maybe we focus, incorporate some of the new data and research that we're learning about Utah Lake into a new CMP. There's certainly room for improvement as far as I understand it, as far as, well, harmful algal blooms that the children were talking about, air quality, sediment deposition, and all of that. We want to provide a current assessment of sovereign lands. This, we feel like we have a pretty good handle on Utah Lake, but of course room for improvement. Incorporate changes in laws and statutes. Things change in 10 years. Our codes change, rules change, policies. We want to make sure that we're operating within those new changes. Update classifications and allowable uses. I'll talk about our classifications in a minute. We are, like a city is zoned for residential, agricultural, municipal zoning. We have classifications that we have to operate within, and this is something that we didn't really focus on in the 2009 plan, but is definitely a focus on our newer projects. And the other exciting thing that could happen with Utah Lake CMP revision is a lake level management approach, and this is something that took off with the Great Salt Lake CMP, and it's been super popular. Our favorite tagline is we don't manage to a lake level. We don't manage Great Salt Lake to one particular level, Bear Lake, Utah Lake. We manage at the lake level that it is. So when a lake is at a certain elevation, what are the characteristics of it, and what is impacted? Is it good or bad for the resource? And so the lake level management approach really focuses on what happens to the resource at a particular elevation. And then update management goals and objectives, you know, with all the growth around Utah Lake, all the residential development, harmful algal blooms. There's definitely things coming up. Let's get ahead of the game or catch up with our management goals and objectives. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with the planning processes, but we want to involve as many folks as we can throughout all of our processes. It's kind of NEPA-esque in how we do the public involvement. We make sure we have a mailing list a mile long, an email list, but we make sure that we involve federal and state agencies, cities and counties, so all around the lake, tribes, adjacent landowners, lessees. We're required by statute to send postcards and notifications to adjacent landowners, We also reach out to the general public and post meeting notices where applicable. So we want to hear from everyone what their concerns are on the lake and how our management practices could impact the different stakeholders around Utah Lake. And I talk about updating classifications. These are the classifications that sovereign lands, that our division has to operate within. Obviously this doesn't, Utah Lake Commission does not have to adhere to these, and but this is what we're operating under, these different classes. And you can look at it as a continuum. So class 1 is managed to protect existing resource uses and development. And then all the way down to class 6, so where you have managed to protect resource preservation. And I guess I should say, which I should have said at the very beginning, the picture that you saw was obviously of Bear Lake. This is an example for Bear Lake because we're in the process of updating the Bear Lake CMP at this very moment. We're working with SWCA environmental consultants to update that. So I've taken a bit of their presentation. So this is obviously just an example at Bear Lake of how the sovereign land classifications could look. But just so you're getting an idea of a lake level management plan update would look very similar on Utah Lake here. And then this is what the classification could look like. So we have, on the left you have all of the, you have like what the current zoning is for the cities. You have if it's been, you know, other data layers, if it's riparian, urban, wetland, water kind of designation. And then we take all of the existing zoning and classifications that municipalities, counties, federal agencies have placed along the shoreline of the sovereign lands, and then we kind of create our own classification. So this is what, so for Bear Lake along the shore, where it's a pretty developed area, I don't know exactly where that is, Garden City, the majority of it is a class 2, which is to protect potential resource development. So the other thing is we're not coming in with these management plans and suggesting that no more development occur. We're looking at existing uses and existing development around there and figuring out, with the balance of the public trust, how to allow for, you know, continual use of our resource while keeping in mind water quality, recreation, scenic beauty, all of those things that we have to juggle with the public trust. So this is just one of the 2 matrices now that we're working with on sovereign lands. This may be helpful for the Utah Lake Commission as well, but for us, for Morgan, she'll get an application. Someone wants to put in let's see, someone wants to put in an individual boat ramp on, they send her some site plans and they want to put on a boat ramp on their private property, or is a permanent individual boat ramp, let's say. And so we look at where that particular applicant's land is located. If it's in a class 1 area, it's allowable. They get a permit and they're off and they're running, and it's a much shorter process than it has been in the past, where they have to go through site-specific analyses and there's a record of decision, allowing for public comment and all of that. But this matrix allows us to streamline the process. If it's in a class 5 area where it's potentially allowable, they would have to provide more information, do the site-specific analysis, and possibly have it open for a public comment period. This is obviously not a Utah Lake matrix, but this is just one thing that we've started to put in all of our management plans that gives our management coordinators, or our resource coordinators, kind of authority in streamlining the process, or what's allowable and what's not on sovereign lands. And we didn't have this consistency before, and this certainly isn't something that's in the Utah Lake plan.
It would have been nice to have.
This is the other cool thing that I think would be really helpful to have for any lake, actually. But it's just how to deal, like I said in the beginning, with the fluctuating lake levels. We don't manage to a lake level, we manage at a lake level. So when you can see from the diagram here, we're maybe talking about endemic fish. When the lake level is high, that's good for the endemic fish, right? It gives more spaces for breeding and habitat for fish to to hang out. But as the lake level recedes and it's low, there's less habitat for that, so it's adverse. The low lake level is adversely impacting the spawning habitat for the fish. So you can just see how at a range of different issues, recreation, infrastructure, navigation, wildlife habitat, let's consider how each of these resources are impacted when the lake is high, medium, and low. And this next slide, super awkward. But I want you to squint and read every line on it. No, not really. This is the lake level matrix that came out of the Great Salt Lake Comprehensive Management Plan. And just a really quick overview. On the x-axis, these are all of the resources in the management plan, wetlands, fringe, impounded wetlands, birds, all the way to hunting, safety, search and rescue, things like that. And then down here is the lake level elevation. So this is when the lake is very low, when the lake is high. And then we've kind of chunked it into different management zones. So you have high, medium, and low lake level zones. And the other useful thing, and definitely something that you can glean from this, is if you don't even have to squint or blur your eyes because it's already blurry, but you can kind of see that the ideal lake level for Great Salt Lake, these numbers say about 4,200. So 4,202 is where things are mostly green. So I should say green is good for resource, yellow not so good, orange is advantageous. So you can see at the high lake levels, all the orange, it's not good for the resource on both extremes. So just an idea of how we could look at the resources around Utah Lake. Sadly, we're going to have to update this unless you guys keep letting water out of Utah Lake, a lot of water, because the Great Salt Lake is kind of trending on a very low level. So I think we're going to have to push down our matrix so the elevations go lower to deal with the considerably low lake levels that we're having in Great Salt Lake. So, also something you do not have to read in great detail, but just to give you an idea, this is what the management goals and objectives are looking like nowadays for our management plans. So this one in particular is for wildlife. So for every resource we'll have a goal, and then the objectives how to meet that goal. We'll also list out who's responsible for management. A lot of the times we're not the managers of, a particular area, like in impounded wetlands on Great Salt Lake, that's DWR. So we need to identify for which particular resource who's responsible for what. So management agencies, who does permitting on sovereign lands typically, and then who's intersecting, which counties, cities are interested or impacted by the management of that resource. And then best management practices. Also something that I don't believe was in the 2009 plan, but if Morgan didn't show up to work tomorrow, or Jamie or I, and someone wanted to put in a boat ramp on Jordan River, and there's no consistent, there to date hasn't been any consistency on what we want that ramp to look like, the materials we want to use. And so the best management practices kind of put in stone or solidify for us what we want particular structures to look like, or how we want to mitigate potential impacts on sovereign lands. So best management practices for every resource. This one is for water quality, obviously, but you can see going down, I think this one's actually Bear River, how we would how we would implement best management practices. This is the timeline for the Bear Lake CMP, but just to give you an idea, we're typically doing management plan and management plan revisions in like 18 months. And this gives us enough time to do, as I said, like the NEPA-esque scoping, like we want to meet with the public and stakeholders, the planning team, and figure out what the initial issues are, draft the document, and come back with a second round of public meetings, and respond to comments, and then have a final document. So we're looking at about an 18-month timeline for the development and or revision of a management plan. Cool. I don't dare show you now, but given all our technical difficulties, but we have a really cool opportunity On our website now, we have a link to an ESRI story map. So for every management plan now, we have a ArcGIS online comparable version so people can look at classifications, look at all the data layers that have gone into making our land classification decisions, in addition to a plain old PDF that you can get off of our website. And then we have all of the data layers that go into the management plan available for the public, and I won't show you that today, don't dare leave here. So it's a little more dynamic plan and easier to view than just, you know, obviously the plans that sit on a shelf. And so I guess that's where I wanted to leave it with you guys, with Eric, and just say what, you know, what are your thoughts on updating your management plan, and could that work with us? Should it work with us? Funding, timeline, all of that. So.
If I could comment, it was the intention of the governing board back when the commission was founded as Leadership with Forestry, Fire, and State Lands to have the same management plan. In fact, the last sentence of the master plan is, "It is the express desire of both the Utah Lake Commission and Forestry, Fire, and State Lands to expend all reasonable efforts to avoid separate management plans." They want, the commission at the time wanted to work arm in arm with division. They recognizing that they have the authority to step away, but they wanted to be an active participant with them. I would expect that would probably be the same with the governing board, and they would want to have the commission work arm in arm with you to look for the long-term future of the lake. Is that been expressed at all as this has been?
Not from my understanding. I mean, we've been talking about updating the Utah Lake CMP, but haven't had any real discussion on what that would look like.
Yeah, I think it's called the Utah Lake Master Plan, but it is the comprehensive management plan for Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands, and that we were. I would hope that the two organizations can continue, and there's from what I can tell no animosity between the two, but be resources to each other to get it updated, and it is supposed to be updated every 10 years.
Perhaps this presentation, similar one to the commission as well, just to make sure we're all on the same page. I mean, if we're going down the road to update it, I think we would want to stick with kind of the similar format we've been doing for our other plans, but I'm not sure what we would need to build upon, or what more the commission would like to see.
Yeah, it might be a good idea to have yourself or even Brian meet with the executive committee and Eric and just say, review the very last, it's the very, very last section of the Utah Lake Master Plan, which talks about how the plan should be amended, and recognizes that Forestry, Fire, and State Lands has the authority to step away from it if they didn't like the direction that the commission was headed in regards to managing the lake. If you guys wanted to be more protective than what the municipalities want, then you have the authority to do so. But the original intent of the founding members of the Utah Lake Commission wanted it to be a good symbiotic relationship, and I expect that to be the case. But it might be a good idea to sit down with the leadership of Forestry, Fire, State Lands and the Utah Lake Commission and say, look, we've got to do something. How do we want to proceed? How do we want to fund this? The commission funded 100% of it for the original one.
That was going to be my other discussion.
And perhaps there's a cost split, or maybe they make Forestry, Fire, and State Lands pay for the second iteration. I don't know.
Yeah. That's going to take some time.
So those are just my
yeah.
thoughts. There's a lot of information, particularly in the back of at the end of the Utah Lake Master Plan, which states the intent when the master plan was adopted 10 years ago. That should be considered.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
First question, are you able to do multiple plan revisions simultaneously?
Yeah, we just did the first ever management plans for Green Colorado River while working on Bear Lake. So it can be done, but I like to just be able to focus on one resource at a time, and I think we'll be far enough along in a Bear Lake CMP soon here that it could be workable.
And then the other question, prior to Jamie taking her position, we worked with Laura Alt on deciding when we could start down this road, and we were kind of on a pause while the island proposal was being entertained, or while it is being entertained. Is it possible to do our revision while that's still in the background?
Yes, I would say yes, 100% yes, because I think one of the strongest things that our management plans do well is a snapshot of the local of the conditions of the resource. And I think if you're going to go down the road to build islands in the lake, they're going to have to do NEPA, and they're going to have to do a kind of a deeper look into all of the resources as well. So for us, just to get a handle on, kind of the baseline conditions pre-island, or, I think it's going to be super useful and only helpful as we move forward to talk about improving from these baseline conditions.
And I ask both those questions because I think that the commission and this group have been and are very willing and ready to head down this road. We've got funding set aside for a split to fund a consultant that we might need for this, and definitely an appetite to kind of dig in and start looking at it.
Awesome. Jamie, do you have any thoughts? Or
no, I just think we should start having the conversations sooner than later, because anything that we do, as many of you know, we have to request funding from the legislature for that. So we would have to do a building block for our share of that money. So, and that will be coming up, July. We would have to do a building block, and we wouldn't get the money until the next year. So if we got it, so something we would need to start looking at soon.
Yeah, for funding in 2022. Yeah. So.
How will this mesh with if we do something like it with the Utah Lake water quality study we're actually doing right now?
That's a great question. So I neglected to mention in detail, but for every management plan that we write, we have a planning team that's all of the state agency. We identify a state agency representative from each of the departments within DNR, but then also with DEQ. And so we would work closely with DEQ to make sure that any information, data, research that they're doing is incorporated, and that we work through that planning team member to make sure that it's all in there. So I think our water quality quantity sections of the management plan, they're super intense for that reason, for the partnership with water quality. Anything else? Any other questions? All right.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
Never followed a group of kids before in a presentation.
Did you want a group picture?
I don't want a group picture, no group picture. Thanks for asking, though. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Okay, let's see. Are you prepared to talk for Scott, Eric, or are we just skipping that agenda item?
I was just going to, he was not able to be here today, but I'll let you know that on March 3rd we have our next science panel meeting. It's a phone call, so that could be something that anybody can jump on and listen into. And then on March 13th is our next steering committee meeting, which hopefully many of you will be at, but that's the update there. The study's moving along.
Okay.
Quickly. I don't know what the right term is, but
we'll
progressing.
You've got you're going to update us on the most recent issues and projects and priorities of Lake Eric?
So there's a lot of exciting stuff happening right now. The first one on the list, Lakeshore Enhancement Project proposals. We've been working now with the Utah County for the last while to figure out a way to dedicate more funding into some large Utah Lake projects. And so on March 3rd, the date is still not 100% clear, but either March 3rd or March 4th, we will be presenting a package of projects to the Tourism Tax Advisory Board that will include major enhancements to Saratoga Springs City Marina, American Fork Boat Harbor, and the Vineyard City Center frontage. Major is in not, double-digit millions, but single-digit millions to be approved this year for big enhancements. So it'll be, we don't have all the concepts in it yet, but Saratoga Springs is adding an additional pier and a beach area that's a really enhanced beach area. American Fork Boat Harbor, also an enhanced beach area, an additional boat launch, and some really cool kind of destination features in the park to make it more of an attractive park as well as a boat marina. And then Vineyard will be to create sort of a much larger version of Vineyard Beach as it is today, but adding boardwalks and sandy areas and potentially some piers, at least one major pier and one dock. I haven't seen their final concept yet, so they kind of had the liberty to explore what seemed best for the city. There's a major city center being developed kind of right to the east of that Shoreline Road, just south of Linden Marina, if you're all familiar with that road. The old Geneva footprint will be the city center of Vineyard City, and this would be a complementary frontage to take advantage of that beachfront along that new city center. Just to the east of that city center, or on the east end of it, is a brand new Utah Transit Authority front runner station that will be completed by the end of this year, and at the latest maybe February of 2021. And so that right at that front runner station will be a really beautiful promenade that comes all the way down to the lake that will kind of be at the core of their city center. And we're hoping that we can have something really amazing for people to see as they come out on that promenade from a major hub of transportation. And it's an all walking community that would take people down to the beach and have a really good experience as they hit Utah Lake. So I will have concepts that you guys can all see at our next meeting. But those are still in the development phase, but potentially could be funded here as soon as early March. So those are the shoreline enhancement proposals. I'll talk in a second about our own shoreline improvement grant. But lake level and snowpack, we talked about the lake level. We're just about at compromise, and snowpack today, or the last measurement that I saw, we're at 114% of average for this time of year. So heading into spring, really with good snowpack up in the mountains. Do you have anything to add to that, Jesse?
So this is the time of year my seasonal schizophrenia kicks in, because I'm both a water supplier, an irrigator, and a flood control manager. I don't know where I should land sometimes this time of year, but watching all the SNOTEL reports and Central Utah's data from the reservoirs, Deer Creek's 95% full, Jordanelle's about 85, Utah Lake's 96. We're releasing from Jordanelle and Deer Creek right now. Some of that's being taken up for water, for culinary water, but a lot is making it to the river. So we're releasing, in combination with Utah Lake water users, Salt Lake County flood, because that's where a lot of the flood waters go, and the state engineer. We decided to open up the gates last week, and we're releasing about 1,000 to 1,200 CFS out of Utah Lake right now. So it's a pretty sizable flow. It's not like it is in a big flood event, but we'll keep watching that over the next several weeks. and either increase if we need to or decrease as we go to. But the goal is to end up with hopefully a full Utah lake, but without having associated flooding either above compromise or downstream. So it's one of these times we're kind of watching things carefully, but we're just trying to make some moves, like they're doing up in Rubber Raptor reservoirs also.
Okay, so the Utah Lake Shoreline Assessment Study, this is at state purchasing right now. This will be great information for the upgraded master plan. The plan is to have, and I think we've talked about it once before, but we're finally moving on it. It's to take soil assessment or soil samples about every mile around the entire shoreline so that we can have a better picture of where we should be focusing our wetland enhancements, where we have naturally sandy areas so that we could potentially have future beaches or manage those as beaches, and other areas that might be prime wildlife habitat that we could focus on more upland type revegetation work. And so we should have the bids back, proposals back in the next couple weeks, and we'll select a proponent for that. Forestry, Fire, and State Lands is partnering with us on that. We've set aside capital funds for that in this year's budget as well, and then Utah County is using a portion of their Watershed Restoration Initiative dollars from this year's budget as well. So we'll have that started and completed before June 30th of this year. One other addition to that, and we would love any feedback or ideas that you have on how we do that. We did reach out to USU Extension, to one of their soils lab, to give us some ideas on what to survey or how kind of the detail that we need on those soil samples. But any other feedback that you have that you think would be helpful from your perspective, whether that be a wildlife perspective or some other perspective, throw those our way so that we can incorporate that into the scope of work for the potential contractor. Walkara Way, everyone's heard of the Walkara Way Project. This is the 1,000-acre park. I have some handouts. Throw those around. We've got a request into the legislature this session. I don't know that we're going to get the full amount appropriated, but we have gotten a lot of traction with the transportation side of the legislature through that appropriation group, the Infrastructure and General Government Appropriations Committee, to fund the trail and trailheads and fencing on this project. It allows for grazing to be the vegetation management tool, and then opens up the bulk of the Powell Slough headed north all the way up to Vineyard to be an open space park. So it'll be managed in a natural way. We won't really have, there's not going to be lawn or anything like that. It's being grazed to a level that benefits wildlife and waterfowl. So it should be a boon for the hunting community, although there's some nervousness being expressed that too many people will now know about it. But it should be just a gorgeous project to set this 1,000 acres aside for a perpetual park, open space type park. I don't know what the right word is so that people don't think grassy lawns. But green space park. There's some already existing sandy areas along the frontage there that we'll try to maintain as beach areas, and have some openings along the trail to provide access down to these new beach areas. And what else? In the future, we will be pursuing a fishing pond, a community fishing pond on the park. We're kind of deciding where that needs to be. There's an existing pond that we could enhance, and there's also the potential we have a water source that could create a brand new pond, but that's much more expensive. So we'll continue working with Division of Wildlife on developing plans and getting some engineering as far as the community fishing portion. Am I missing anything? Anyone have
There's an add-on. We'll send out the digital flyer. We ran out, I'm sorry.
Okay.
On that side of the room, but we'll email it today.
So we also, what else do we have? We have some fencing going through the Watershed Restoration Initiative. We've had stories in the paper, the Sunday paper, Daily Herald had a great story on it. BYU Broadcasting is publishing a video production today. And KSL News has also picked up on the story and should have something in the next couple days. That we were on the phone with them as we walked in, so we apologize for being a little bit late. But that's the update on Walkara Way. If there's no questions, we can move on. So the Shoreline Improvement Grant. This is the small grant that Utah Lake Commission offered, and we were excited to get some great applications. Josh put in some applications for the Utah Lake State Park, and we were able to fund most of those to improve. I don't know, do you want to talk about the ones that you guys are doing, some of the enhancements?
Sure. They were gracious enough to give us money for quite a few of the projects that I've kind of had on the back burner for a while, but one of them is our South Jetty. It gets pretty rutted up with the use every year, just due to traffic and rainstorms, and then the windstorms that kind of cause the big waves to crash over the jetties, and it just kind of gets real washboardy and then potholed. And so we got a grant from them for some road base to be brought in, and UDOT will grade that for us out, so it's nice and smooth again. We're going to install a water line coming across from Park Major over into the nature area, so that we can start hopefully utilizing that area some more. Maybe put in some cabins or something over there to draw more people into that area, as it's not really being utilized all that well. We're going to bring in some more sand for the beach area, try and make that a more popular area, try and expand it a little bit. And then one of the negative reviews that I'm always seeing online is in our campground due to no shade and the grass looking not so good. So we're going to try and revamp and get a green lawn in there. It's pretty hard with how the park was built. There's only about 6 inches of topsoil on top of a bunch of road base. So to try and keep the lawns green in there is difficult, but we've found a strain of grass that we think will work. So we're actively working in there to kind of kill off the cheat grass so that the new grass will have a chance to not get smothered out. And then we've got a new playground that's going in that they're going to fund some money towards getting wood chips, so the fall hazard is mitigated.
Awesome.
I think that was all of them.
Yep. And then the other one that we did was with Vineyard City. They have dollars set aside for the purchase of a sand rake, and we're providing an additional $15,000 that goes towards that machine. And because we're contributing to that, they are willing to enter into an interlocal with Utah County to make that rake available as needed. But they'll use that, they'll run it behind a tractor, and it can scoop down a few inches and then just sorts all the garbage out of the sand and leaves a nice renovated, I don't know, clean sand behind it as it goes. So it'll be nice to keep these beaches that we want as beaches really well manicured, and then we can focus our other efforts, our vegetation control elsewhere. So those were exciting, and the vineyard one, that means that's a $100,000+ investment that a small contribution through a small grant was able to stimulate some interest there and get some dollars dedicated to Utah Lake improvement. So we're excited about that. Point 6, summer algae treatments. So we have a treatment taking place at Linden Marina and another treatment taking place at Lincoln Beach Marina, the county marina. Both of those have been semi-prone for algae blooms within the marinas, and so that we thought that they would be a great test for the technologies that came to the table. And there'll be summer-long treatments. So it'll be, the biggest challenge will probably be the Lincoln Beach Marina, because that one just happens to be located in a wind direction that kind of collects algae. They are going to put a little bit of a curtain out at the opening of the marina. Boats can go around it, but it kind of prevents the wind from blowing the waves directly into that little marina channel to help them so that they don't feel like they're fighting a lost cause. But that'll be great. They'll monitor it throughout the summer, and we'll have really good data at the end of that to show how well those treatments work on treating the algae in the lake.
Eric, are those chemical treatments or are
they're chemical treatments?
Okay.
Yep. And they've been working closely with Division of Water Quality on how to do that so that it's maintaining marine safety levels and that type of thing. So, if I can say marine, is that salt water only?
Yeah.
Okay. Water quality measures so that it protects aquatic life. Okay, Scott was going to talk a little bit about our Phragmites work on the lake, or at least the portion that you do, and I'll fill in anything else.
Okay, yep. Talking with Jake Johnson, who's the superintendent that's taking care of this project, he stated that there was 4,600 acres of Phragmites that was spot treated with herbicide by helicopter, and they were also able to, in this treatment, extend down roughly between the Spanish Fork River down towards Lincoln Beach, and then also around on the other side of West Mountain. They didn't treat along specifically the areas where there's the orchards and stuff to avoid a conflict, but they did get down into the Goshen Bay area too, so those areas were sprayed. He also mentioned that they'd had the trampling and mowing going on along the shoreline. Specifically, they've done areas in the Saratoga Springs Marina area and Powell Slough area, as well as they're working around the Provo Airport in Provo Bay. They did have to put on hold what they were doing in Provo Bay because of the ice and stuff. They were having trouble with the machines breaking through, so they're holding off on that for now. Just as a note that they are looking at procuring some sprayers that will go behind the marsh masters, and so with that they'll be able to utilize them a little more, doing spot treatments and treatments, etc.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
So in addition to the sprayers, one of the things that they're finding is in some areas a roller crusher would be preferable, especially the wet areas where the mowers, it's a little too deep of water for the mowers to work. And so we just ordered 2 roller crushers with the remaining portion of our equipment fund with the Utah Lake Commission dollars just a few days ago. So those will be arriving shortly, and they'll be able to be more effective, because right now where they can't mow, they have to just use the tracks of the marsh masters, which means they have to make multiple passes over the same area to make sure that their tracks are smashing. So this will really speed up their efforts in those areas that are wet where they're not able to use the mower.
And this is a drum that's filled with a non-freezable liquid that they're able to go through to help with that extra weight to smash.
With chopper blades kind of welded sporadically across it so that it cuts the stems as well as smashing them.
And then you mentioned too that they made application with the invasive species mitigation and watershed restoration initiative for grant funds to go along with further treatment for the duration of the 2019-20 fiscal year on the treatments also.
Awesome.
So with those locations you do that, do you map those so we can see where it's been mashed, where it's been cut, or where it's been herbicide's been put on?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It'd be interesting to see just what's going on with that.
And a quick reference for those maps that's available to all is the Watershed Restoration Initiative. So just look up Utah WRI, and then in the project search bar, you can look up Utah Lake Shoreline Restoration, I think is what that's usually called, and I think we're on our 11th application now, or 12th application, and assigned to each one is a map this project, and it'll show the final report of where it was treated.
Thanks.
Reed, back to you.
Yes. So Sam?
And over to me, right?
Yeah.
I'll keep it brief with our time being short. The first update listed on there is a podcast. So if you have an iPhone, you can go on Apple Podcasts now. We're working on Google Podcasts. Google's complicated, apparently. But we have launched it officially as of last week, so it's up on there. It's called Utah Lake Facts, Fiction, and Fun. So the idea of the podcast is that we'll be addressing topics underneath those three main categories. So far, we've got 4 episodes up there. The first one, Eric and I spoke about the future of Utah Lake as far as it comes as recreation, water quality, habitat and wildlife, and such. We did our second episode on why you should recreate at Utah Lake over other lakes. The third episode was the top 5 questions that we got asked at our educational booth we did this summer at the various city festivals. And then the 4th episode, we actually interviewed Jake Holdaway about the Walkara Way Project. Coming up in the future, we do have plans that we're working on for a couple different episodes. Hopefully, start of next month, we'll be interviewing Melissa Stamp with the Pearl River Delta Restoration Project. We've also had discussions on a few other topics like the Utah Lake Monster for the fiction side of the podcast, and a few other things like that. So I may reach out to some of you in the future, or if you're interested in coming on the podcast to discuss a topic related to the lake, we'd love to try and continue to utilize that as a tool to get information out to the public in a more in-depth form without us having to be face-to-face with them or them having to attend one of our meetings or events. And that way they can learn about these topics that we're all discussing and aware of, but don't always have the opportunity or the amount of time needed to properly catch people up and share the exciting information that's going on. As far as other updates, I mentioned the Pearl River Delta Project. All I'll say is that, because I'm sure Mike will probably say something about it, but we will be working with Melissa on some of the communications things, helping get flyers out to the public at our booths. Like I said, she'll be on the podcast. Their website was recently updated. I definitely recommend going to look at it. They've got a lot of new videos talking about the timeline of the project and some cool information on there. Other than that, in communications work, we continue to test out new ideas. We've got a team of interns at BYU right now that's making a few videos for us to try and address some of the facts, the common facts that people don't know about Utah Lake or questions or concerns they might have about the lake. And as we get closer to the summer, we will bring on an intern during the summertime again to help with some of our events and our other communications efforts too. That's what I got.
Thanks, Sam. All right, Mike.
I have some slides, but maybe in the interest of time, I'll just try to do this all quickly and not bore anyone. But the biggest news in June Sucker land is the proposal from the Fish and Wildlife Service to downlist the species from endangered status down to threatened status. This was a rule that was released the week of Thanksgiving, went through a comment period that ended at the end of January. The Fish and Wildlife Service received 19 comments on the rule, which is a very small amount of comments. Normally, this would number in the hundreds for a change in status of an endangered species.
What was the general
There were
message?
4 comments that were opposed to the change, but they didn't have any substantial reasoning, just don't do this kind of comments. And then the remainder of the comments were all positive and much more substantial. The bulk of them were submitted by partners to the June Sucker Recovery Program. So we kind of stacked the ballot a little bit, which was intentional. But the Fish and Wildlife Service, they are going to make a final determination. The plan is for them to have that finished during 2020. We would like it as soon as possible. They've told us it typically would take a year, so hopefully sooner than later we would have that be an official designation. And this represents a big step for us. There's only been 4 fish in the history of the Endangered Species Act that have gone from endangered to threatened status. 3 of those were eventually removed from the endangered species list completely. So June Sucker would be the 5th. And it's important for our partners that are all water management oriented to know that we could build the Central Utah project and also improve the status of an endangered species at the same time. So we're excited about that, and is giving us a little more momentum. Like Sam mentioned, Provo River Delta construction will be starting in early March. The initial work is more site prep, building the construction access, and then starting work on the berm that will become the south property boundary of the project. Actual delta features, that construction most likely won't start until June. You've heard the snowpack report and lake level report. This is the worst time probably possible for us to start construction out there. Some of the prep work that's already begun, Dominion Energy had to lower a gas pipeline that goes through the property. It is about 3 feet deep currently, and they're going to try to relocate it to about 20 feet deep. But they tried to put mats out to drive equipment on. Those mats are floating in water as of yesterday. So it's going to be challenging to get this project started. And then it's going to be a long process also. We anticipate a 5-year construction time frame. Starting in the farthest northwestern corner of the delta and working backwards towards the existing river channel. It will be a long project, and we'll be happy to provide updates throughout the entire thing. And then just touching briefly on invasive fish management, back in the fall, the Utah Lake Carp Task Force was formed, and that is now directing carp removal efforts on Utah Lake with a 3-pronged approach. With the adult numbers being so suppressed, it has been difficult to catch carp in large quantities on Utah Lake. We're going to continue that effort in order to keep the population suppressed while we work on refining some methods to target smaller size carp, and then also funding some research into some more experimental novel control methods. And then northern pike, we're working on a northern pike control strategy for Utah Lake. One of the first steps of that is being led by Keith with Division of Wildlife Resources. They're going to be putting telemetry tags in northern pike this spring and releasing them back into the lake. This is a little bit of a public relations catch-22 because there's a no-kill or must-kill regulation on northern pike in Utah Lake, meaning if you're a fisherman and you catch a northern pike, you have to kill it. You can't put it back into the lake. But we don't want people to catch and kill these fish that we've invested money in and putting a tag in. So you've probably seen some of the media saying, if you catch a northern pike with a tag, please release that pike. There are not a lot of northern pike that are caught by anglers in Utah Lake. So we're probably making a bigger deal out of it than it probably will be, but just trying to get the message. That's all I have. I'd be happy to answer questions if there's time.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions for Mike? I just thought I'd mention it has been since September that we last met. For those of you that have been with the commission for quite some time, Bill Loy, who was the fisherman on Utah Lake, passed away in the fall, I believe, in November or so. But he was a great advocate for the lake and will be missed. So I presume that his boys are taking over and continuing the operation.
Jordan and Cody. Jordan has fished Utah Lake by Bill's side for a number of years. Cody hasn't been as active, but both of his sons have taken over the company, and they are moving forward with some of the efforts. We'll actually be issuing a new contract to them, hopefully in the next 6 weeks, that will guide renewable efforts moving forward.
Okay. That concludes the main agenda items. We now have an opportunity to make any comments, ask any questions as a group, as committee members, and also the public. So we'll just go around the room. Anybody has any questions, just let us know. No.
Anybody that didn't get one of those flyers, I do have those.
Okay. Josh? Nothing? It's always the quickest part of the agenda, so.
I just have a quick comment.
Okay.
I'm with Linden City, and we've just been working with the Linden Marina for about a year to make an RV park there. So they just, since our last meeting, got a conditional use permit for that. And we did an ordinance amendment to allow for RV parks. And basically what it does is they'll be bringing in utilities from Vineyard City that will allow them to have designated pad sites with sewer, water, and power to those pad sites, and it'll allow for designated areas for camping and also for tiny homes in some places. So hopefully that'll kind of clean up the area and make it a little bit more organized, and we're excited to see that move forward.
Okay. Mark, you got anything? No. Around the rest? Okay. Reminder that our next meeting will be held on April 15th at 10 a.m. The remaining meetings are also listed at the bottom of the agenda.
There is a discrepancy there. April 20th is listed at the bottom.
We got that updated in the print version, sorry. That's why I was handing them out, but thank you. Somebody else pointed that out to me via email as well. My apologies.
Which one is it, though?
The 15th.
Okay.
Yeah, 20th was the wrong date.
April 15th is the WEAU conference. I don't know if that affects too many people, but just making everyone aware of that. Okay, go ahead.
WEAU, remember what that
Water
is?
Environment Association of Utah. That's the wastewater industry annual conference.
Okay.
All right, with that, I guess that concludes my final technical committee meeting as chair. So I will, next meeting, move to the